Hello there. This is another episode of Strife's Talking Points, and I wanted to talk about something very near and dear to me. It is the end, the breakdown, the walking away, or whatever you want to call it, of me and the Democratic Party. However, I would like to still consider myself very much a liberal in the vein of freedom from oppression, freedom for choice, and the generally well thought of liberal ideas. And I'm just going to break into it and go through what actually changed me. One of the standard things you always kind of hear is I disapprove of what you say, but I will defend to the death your right to say it. This to me is a natural liberal value. I don't have to agree with you, but I do believe that you deserve the right to speak, as opposed to the current progressive idea, which is I disapprove of what you say, and I will publicly shame you, lobby to have you censored, and demand you be fired from your job. They also are currently enacting violence. They are advocating for active violence against anyone who breaks rank. And this doesn't matter if you're a conservative. The moment, as a liberal, you step out of line, you are attacked. This is going on more and more often, and it is very disturbing. Classic liberalism, stress on individual freedom and limited government. I want the government out of my life. I don't believe that I need the government to tell me what to do, when to do it, how to work. Apparently now this has become a conservative value, but it is a standard liberal value. Don't regulate who I can and can't marry. And the only time the government needs to be involved is when there is other institutions trying to segregate and push people out, which I would argue now needs to be done to some of the larger businesses such as Twitter and YouTube, since they are aggressively going after anyone not expressing far left ideas. If you're moderate or classic liberal, you are under fire just as much. Here are the big stories. These are from 2017. These are the biggest news stories as searched on Google. Hurricane, Las Vegas shooting. A lot of people have already forgotten this happened only about 2 years ago. This was a huge ordeal. Machine guns firing on the country music crowd there in Las Vegas. So there are clips, of course. They have Donald Trump looking up at it because, again, at this point in time, I really did agree that this man was a nut job. Mostly still do, but hey. Hurricane Harvey, Bitcoins run up, what is that, $17,000. That was a big news story. North Korea, tensions between them and Donald Trump in their war of words. And since then, there's been almost no coverage whatsoever of this. It's a non-issue now, apparently. However, I do try and look it up every so often. Hurricane. Oh, happy news story. Baby giraffe. Very cute. DACA. This has been a news story that's been kicked around for years as these deferred action on childhood arrivals program. 800,000. I wish they would just settle this, offer these guys a simple path to citizenship, and move on. Going to 2018. This one gets fun. In 2018, oh wait, no, this is the as by NBC. This is the same year. What does NBC have as the biggest things? Well, you see right there, Charlottesville. Unite the Right. These are people protesting the removal of the statue. They're removing Lee Park, removing the statue of Robert Lee in the Unite the Right rally. Unite the Right protesters, counter protesters. Huge story. We all know that there was a fatality there. One of the people on the right drove his car and killed someone, and rightfully so, is being charged with vehicular homicide. Year in review, the new president, big deal. Mueller investigation. This is one that is still going on 2 years later. Mueller has indicted several people, a few in the U.S., all for crimes not related to presidential election. That is Michael Flynn in the picture. He was, unfortunately, hiding money and tax evasion. Greater tension with North Korea. Again, you don't see this a lot, but the mainstream media has to keep the fear going. And on this again, not a lot has happened. It's almost died away. The Me Too movement. I don't know if you all know this, but in Hollywood, they have a very abusive relationship with men and women. And as film mogul Harvey Weinstein lured women into his hotel room, sexually assaulted them for years. Wasn't a secret. It was an open secret. Not open things are not secrets. This was something everyone in Hollywood knew about, knew happened, and they hid it from the mainstream. Just didn't cover it. With him, also fell Matt Lauer, a person who worked at the New York office with women who would lock other women in his office and not let them leave. Charlie Rose went down. Kevin Spacey went down. You have to always remember, though, that it's unwanted or forced advances. Whenever they go after the president for this, you've noticed that most of these women were chasing his money, not forced thing, which the old locker room talk, grab him by the is just him saying that because he was rich, because he was famous, women would let him do anything. And this is very common between movie stars, music stars, sports guys. It just so happens that a billionaire TV show guy also had it and was caught on film saying that because I'm rich, a lot of these women just throw themselves at me and don't really care. They just want to be part of it. Which Trump has been basically cleared of all the Me Too stuff, and it's strictly focused on large, rich people who supposedly are media elite who focus on using their power to abuse women. Las Vegas shooting, terrorism in Mexico. This was a big thing here. Also, this was happening in Europe as well. Opioid epidemic, devastating hurricane season, which is most results on Google. Solar eclipse. I was one of the many people who traveled to an area where you could watch the eclipse. I was actually on a lake during that. And the culture war. There we go. Big stories. Big stories 2018 World Cup. I'm not a huge sports fan. Definitely not a football fan or soccer, whatever you want to call it. It's a big deal for a lot of people. 3.4 billion people. That's huge. Hurricane Florence, $1.5 billion jackpot, midterm elections. I'll go ahead and admit the first time I ever voted Republican was this election here, November 6th. Hurricane Michael, Brett Kavanaugh. This is actually all these tabs you see across here. This incident actually changed how I think and vote and view the media almost entirely. Parkland school shooting, very tragic event there, which just is awful horrible to see high school students getting killed. Royal wedding, Olympic golds. Don't remember anything about the Winter Olympics. Government shutdowns. We should all be used to this. Our government is dysfunctional at best. According to Google, go over here. Top stories of 2018. There they are again. February, Olympic gold. March for Our Lives rally in response to the Parkland shooting. This was a big deal. Cambridge Analytica, Russian ads. Now, with the Russian ads, they found that a few $1 million was spent in the U.S. election to try and sway. That money was spent on both sides, trying to drum up anything they could, which is, I don't know, it doesn't seem that odd for a foreign state to throw in a few $1 million to try and destabilize an election. When your election bill is $6 billion and you're looking for 0.01% of it, it didn't affect anyone. A few hundred views, None of that mattered. It was not a thing. Stormy Daniels, defamation lawsuit. She was paid off by the president to not talk about having sex with him, and then she sued him because he had paid her off for having sex with him. Yeah. Volcanic eruptions. Look, the image from when Obama was president of the child standing next to the border security guy searching the mom. This picture was brought up and is still here as one of the top news stories. This has nothing to do with the year they're discussing. It goes back several years. Child separations, back several years. This is not something new. This was something that has been an issue, and as a lifelong Democrat, always thought you should secure the border, deport the illegals to help raise the minimum wage, lower rents, make it easier on the poor to move forward. July, France won the World Cup. August, and then here, this event. Look at that. She's looking good. He's looking awful, yelling. September, October was this Hurricane Michael, wildfires in California. That's an annual thing. And then the death of George Bush. Oh, Hamilton. Never seen it. Probably too expensive for me to go view, but is what it is. Here is one of my favorite images of Blasey Ford during her emotional testimony, where she described an event that she doesn't remember, that they had to go through regression to get to, about her needing to install a door into her house for a separate exit, but it wasn't a separate exit. It was so she could have a home office for counseling, which wasn't allowed by her neighborhood and California law. And she used all the ways she could to get this put up, and then later on she decided that would make a good story and brought it forward. Here's my man. I am Spartacus. This guy here is Cory Booker. He grandstanded as long as he could. It was just awful. And I was watching this because I came into it believing that this Kavanaugh guy was terrible. Then I watched the entire Democratic Party protest, flip out, screech. It was one of the most informative points of my life, and did change the way I vote and change the way I think about media, how we handle stuff, people inability to control themselves. And Cory Booker, man, that dude there was grandstanding, and it was just pitiful. One of the worst displays I've ever seen of how people act in public. These women here. This is not from after Blasey Ford. These people were doing this the whole time. The Handmaid's Tale about a religious theocracy that takes over and forces women to dress like that. Now, on the conservative side, and go back to classic liberalism, I don't believe the government should tell you how to do this. However, they are thinking of this as some type of religious theocracy. We do have women who are forced to dress in a similar manner in foreign countries. It is not something the U.S. goes to. However, if you want to see it, let's just click a little tab here, hit this button, and we're going to type in there you go. Put a little hood on that, and that's exactly how they're supposed to be dressing. Strange. That is not religious to the West. This is standard dress if you are in the Middle East, if you are in a Muslim country. And I dare say most people in the U.S. aren't for that. This is a fictional story, which is reality for people in the Middle East, that they are forced to dress and act a certain way. These two, Blasey Ford, Brett Kavanaugh, probably the cleanest political figure we've had in forever, and he's going to be a judge and has been vetted so many times that his vettings have been vetted to be vetted. It's ridiculous. And Blasey Ford, a person whose story fell apart immediately and who's made a few $100,000 after this. on her GoFundMe, who works at a extremely liberal college and has had no blowback whatsoever through her work employment, other than some of the hate mob out there on Twitter, which Twitter is a hate mob. I don't know why people still use it, saying mean things to her. But this guy here publicly assaulted for weeks and months, even before she testified. This was the ace in the hole. Here's another image. This is a guy, which I look at this and I don't know who this is, and I never did know who this was until the story came out. Father of the Parkland guy. This is the image that you should have seen. However, the image you saw was a little more like this or like this, where this is Brett Kavanaugh in the middle of being screamed at, with security moving in to get in between him and this man. No idea who it is, would have never known him because no one would have known him. And this missed handshake was a national news. Disrespect. When his security people moved him out, yeah, no, you can't take the image. You have to do some research. Oh, and here are the screechers, the screamers that were there every single day of the protest against a man going to the Supreme Court. Oh, look at disruptions. Look at the screamers. Look at them. Look at it. Yeah, be hero. Look at this. This is awful. These people were invited by Democratic people. What's this lady? Sarsour. I would really love to publish her views on abortion and murdering children in Islamic countries and then see how they took it, because that is just pathetic. It is so awful that she is sitting there fighting for stuff that she cannot say or do while in required religious dress. Isn't that odd? Just required religious dress, required religious dress. Okay? Fictional, real. Fictional, real. Moving on, screaming at him because you're out of order, because I disagree with something you've never said, and I want to make a big deal out of it. Again. Look at this. Over and over. Over 100 people arrested during the Kavanaugh. Look at this. This man was one of the cleanest, simplest, middle of the road guys you would ever want to have on the Supreme Court. And this is the ire he drew. All of this started way before Blasey Ford came out. That was the trump card. Nothing worked. His record didn't work. Spartacus didn't work when he leaked the stuff that it had already been released. And it was beautiful. But this ended me and my feelings towards the Democratic Party. And as we move forward, we're seeing the Democratic Party fracture and break down. And I, for one, am extremely excited about it. I would like to see an actual classic liberal group come through where we actually go back to a non-overreaching, overburdening government where we're not out there trying to destroy people because they say something we don't like or have a disagreement. Anyway, thank you for listening and have a great day.